Chapter 1. Homecoming. The plane touched down with a soft bump, jolting Marcus awake from a light nap. He looked out the window, watching the dull gray tarmac roll past. After nearly a year away, he was home, not just back in the States, home. Virginia. Family. He had imagined this moment 100 times during long, sleepless nights in the desert heat. But now that it was real, something in his chest felt oddly tight. He pushed the thought away. He chalked it up to nerves, or maybe exhaustion. The terminal was crowded, full of families holding signs, balloons, flowers. A little girl squealed as she ran in her father's arms near baggage claim. Marcus smiled faintly. That used to be his family, the excited hugs, the jump into his arms. But now, he hadn't seen Dana or the kids yet. His eyes scanned the crowd until he spotted them. Dana standing stiffly with her arms folded, wearing sunglasses despite being indoors, and the kids next to her, shifting awkwardly. 8-year-old Max gave a half-smile. Sophie, just 12 now, looked away as if embarrassed to be there. Hey, my babies. Marcus dropped his duffel and strode toward them. Max broke into a jog, wrapping his arms around Marcus's waist. Dad! Marcus laughed and lifted him with one arm. Man, you've gotten heavy. Been eating all your vegetables, huh? Max grinned. Nope, just pizza. Sophie hugged him too, quickly before stepping back. He turned to Dana. She took off her glasses, exposing puffy, tired eyes and a tight-lipped smile. Hey, hon, Marcus said, moving in for a kiss. She leaned sideways into a stiff hug. Hey, welcome back. The coldness in her touch punched harder than any deployment hazard ever had. Marcus tried not to show it. It's good to see you. You too, she said, then looked down at her phone. He tried to ignore that, too. The drive home was quiet. The kids chattered a little, telling him about school, Max's obsession with Fortnite, Sophie's new violin teacher. But Dana stayed silent, one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally tapping at her phone screen. Marcus looked out the window. Familiar streets rolled by, but they felt foreign now. The trees were greener, fuller than when he'd left. A lot could change in a year. When they pulled into the driveway, he noticed the front lawn was perfectly trimmed, too perfect, actually. A new flower bed lined the walkway. Fresh mulch. He raised an eyebrow. Did we get new gardener? Dana shrugged as she cut the engine. The neighbor's son needed work. Figured why not. Inside, the house looked clean, almost staged. New couch pillows, different curtains, a different smell in the air, vanilla, and something musky. Not bad, but not familiar. Marcus dropped his duffel by the stairs. Let me shower. Then I'll start dinner, he said. No need. I already ordered Chinese, Dana said, still glancing at her phone. He paused, nodded. Cool. I've missed your cooking, though. She gave a quick laugh. I haven't had time to cook much lately. He watched her leave the room, then turned to the kids. You guys still play outside? Or has the Xbox officially claimed your souls? Max giggled. Sophie doesn't play. She just texts. Sophie rolled her eyes. I don't text that much. Marcus smiled and sat on the couch with them. For the next hour, he listened to Max's endless stories and Sophie's more reserved updates. They were the same, but older, wiser, a little more distant. He hated missing so much time with them. Dana reappeared just as the food arrived. She didn't sit next to Marcus. She barely looked up during dinner. Instead, she kept responding to texts, occasionally offering a distracted when someone spoke to her. Work stuff? Marcus finally asked, tried to sound casual. Huh? She blinked, then realized. Oh no, just a friend. We're planning something for next week. He forced a smile. Busy social life now, huh? She shrugged. I have to stay sane while you're gone, Marcus. I can't be a hermit. I didn't mean anything by it, he said softly. She stood, tossing her napkin on the plate. I'm going upstairs. Long day. Marcus watched her go, a dull ache settling in his chest. That night, he lay in bed beside her. She was already facing the other way, phone screen lighting up her face every few minutes. He glanced at the digital clock, 11:43 p.m. He rolled onto his side. Hey, I missed you. Yeah, she said distantly. I missed you too. I know I've been gone a lot, but I want us to get back on track. Reconnect, you know? She paused, screen still glowing in her hand. Let's just talk tomorrow, okay? I'm exhausted. He stared at the ceiling in the dark after she turned away. Over the next few days, more subtle things started to show. Dana had started dressing up to go out, even if it was just to meet a friend or grab groceries. Hair done, makeup flawless. She'd never been one for high heels and perfume just to go shopping. One morning, Marcus found her in the bathroom, applying lipstick in the mirror. "Where you headed?" he asked, sipping coffee. "Just running errands," she said, not looking at him. "You sure you're not meeting the Queen?" he joked. She gave a short laugh. Funny, but her tone wasn't amused. That night, she came home later than usual. Said she lost track of time. Then did it again 2 days later. And again. He didn't ask. Not yet. It was during one of her late-night meetings that Marcus stood in the kitchen alone, holding a photo of their wedding day. The two of them smiling, young and full of life. He remembered how she used to greet him at the door when he returned from previous deployments, jumping into his arms. Now, all he got was cold air and unfinished conversations. His gut whispered things he didn't want to hear. She laughed more at her phone than she did with him. She flinched when he touched her. She never made eye contact during long talks, not that they really had any. He tried to convince himself it was the adjustment period. Time apart did things to a marriage. You drift, then you find your way back. That's what love was, finding the way back. But her way back seemed to be going the opposite direction. He walked through the living room one afternoon and saw her quickly slide her phone face down on the couch cushion. Not before he glimpsed a text bubble. "When can I see you again?" She saw him looking and snatched the phone up. "Work thing," she said instantly. He didn't respond. Instead, he nodded, grabbed his keys, and mumbled, "I'll go get groceries." Outside, he gripped the steering wheel, staring blankly at the windshield. Something was very, very wrong, but he wasn't ready to confront it. Not yet. He focused on the kids, on re-establishing routine. He helped Max with homework, taught Sophie how to change a tire. He fixed the leaky faucet Dana said they'd just learned to live with. He cooked dinner some nights, grilled in the backyard like old times. She barely joined them, and when she did, her eyes were on her phone. He told himself it would get better. Maybe it was just the transition. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe he had changed too much. He wanted to believe that. He needed to believe that. Because the truth was beginning to take shape like a shadow he couldn't ignore. And yet, everything seemed fine on the surface. The house was neat. The kids smiled. Dana kissed him goodnight sometimes, but her phone never left her hand, and her smile never quite reached her eyes. Chapter 2. Goes to my own home. The days after homecoming bled together in a blur of forced normalcy. Marcus tried. Lord, he tried. He folded back into the routine like muscle memory, packing lunches, fixing the wobbly banister Dana always said she hated, driving Sophie to violin practice, tossing a football with Max in the backyard. But something was off. Something fundamental. It wasn't the house. The house was clean, organized, quiet. It was her, Dana. She floated through rooms like a stranger, tethered to her phone like it had more warmth than he did. Always typing, always looking down, always somewhere else. The first Sunday back, Marcus cooked pancakes like he always used to. The smell of batter sizzling, butter melting, and coffee brewing brought back memories of happier mornings. He laid the table with care, plates stacked, syrup warmed, orange juice poured. "Breakfast," he called. The kids came quickly. Dana came late, still wearing her robe, phone in hand. He smiled at her. "Remember when we used to fight over who made better pancakes?" She looked up confused. "Huh, you said mine were too thick." Said they were like edible coasters. A flicker of something passed through her eyes, but she just nodded. "Yeah, well, they still are." Max giggled. Sophie smirked. Dana didn't even sit down, just picked at one, barely taking a bite. Then came the snappiness. "Can you pass the butter?" Marcus asked. She slammed it down on the table with more force than needed. "I said pass it, not assault the counter," Marcus joked. She glared. "Maybe if you listened the first time, I wouldn't have to repeat myself." The table went quiet. Max looked down. Sophie stabbed her pancake with a fork like it insulted her. Marcus said nothing, just buttered his own in silence. Later that day, he tried to rekindle something, anything. He found her folding laundry in the bedroom, headphones in, nodding to music. He tapped her shoulder. She flinched, yanked an earbud out. Jesus, Marcus. Sorry, he said. Didn't mean to startle you. She sighed, tossing a shirt into a pile. What do you want? I thought maybe we could go out tonight. Just us. Get a drink. Talk. She stared at him like he'd asked her to go to Mars. I have plans. With who? She hesitated a half-second too long. Just Rachel. Girls' night. Okay. Wanting to drop you off. She grabbed the laundry basket and walked past him. No. I'm driving. Her hair was done. Lipstick on. And that perfume, sweet, citrusy, one he didn't recognize. Not the scent she used to wear. He watched her go. The bedroom door shut. Marcus stood in the bathroom that evening, staring at the counter. His razor sat exactly where he left it. So did his toothbrush. But next to the sink, something didn't fit. A bottle of cologne. Not his. It was woodsy, dark, and sharp. Not cheap, either. Something a younger man might wear to a club. He picked it up, examined the label. Expensive. He opened the medicine cabinet. No prescriptions out of place. But something else caught his eye, a black hoodie stuffed into the bottom of the laundry basket. He pulled it out, held it up. It was a size too big for him, definitely not his. Smelled faintly of that same cologne. His heart thudded. Still, he didn't say anything. He sat on the edge of the tub for a long time, the hoodie in his lap, breathing slow and deep. Don't jump to conclusions, man. Maybe Rachel left it. Maybe it's old. Maybe nothing. That night, dinner was takeout again. Dana wasn't home. Sophie reheated her food without asking. Max played on his tablet while Marcus cleaned the kitchen. No one talked. He looked around the table at the 3 empty chairs and felt something cold settle inside him. Later, as he tried to read in the living room, Sophie walked past in her socks, heading upstairs. Hey, he said, you doing okay? She paused at the stairs. Yeah. You sure? She shrugged. Mom's just been weird lately. He nodded. Yeah, I've noticed. Then she asked something that hit harder than she knew. Did something happen between you guys while you were gone? Marcus stared at her, stunned silent. No, he said finally. Not that I know of. Sophie just nodded like she expected that. Okay, good night. He watched her disappear upstairs. And for the first time, he felt like a ghost in his own home. The next morning, Dana was already gone before he woke up. The kids said she had an early meeting. Marcus made breakfast again. No one ate much. Around noon, he saw her car pull into the driveway. She walked in with sunglasses on, to-go coffee in hand. Hey, he said. Did your meeting go well? She paused, then nodded. Yeah, it was fine. Rachel says hi. She froze slightly. Just for a second. Yeah. Marcus smiled, tried to keep the tone light. Funny, I called Rachel this morning. Left a voicemail. Haven't heard back yet. Dana stared at him, lips pursed. Why would you do that? Just wanted to say hi. Haven't seen her since I got back. Dana turned on her heel. I'm gonna shower. He stood there, watching her retreat down the hallway. That evening, Marcus stood outside on the porch with a beer in hand, staring at the sky as the sun dipped below the trees. He used to look forward to moments like this, peace, quiet, family inside, the sounds of his kids laughing behind him. Now, all he heard was the low hum of his own heartbeat and the dull ache in his chest. He sat on the porch swing and let it sway, slow and steady. He thought back to a summer night 5 years ago, when Dana curled into his side on this very swing, barefoot, wine in hand, talking about the future, about the kids, about growing old together. She used to love how safe he made her feel. What did that stop being enough? That night, they sat at dinner again, just the 4 of them. Dana was quiet, chewing like she was on autopilot. Marcus tried to ask questions. Max answered. Sophie offered short, clipped replies. Dana barely looked up. Then, in the middle of dinner, her phone buzzed. She picked it up without hesitation. Marcus finally said, Can you put it down, just for tonight? She didn't even look guilty. It's work, says the woman on girls' night 3 times this week. Her jaw tightened. You want to talk about work? Let's talk about how you weren't home for nearly a year. He leaned forward, voice low. I was defending this country. Our family. Yeah? Well, while you were playing hero, I was the one stuck here raising 2 kids alone. The kids both froze. Marcus swallowed hard. Don't do this. Not in front of them. Dana stood up, grabbing her plate. Then stopped pretending like everything's fine. She walked into the kitchen and turned the tap on full blast, drowning out whatever came next. Later, Marcus lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Dana scrolled beside him in silence. She didn't face him. She didn't speak. Just thumbed through whatever she was so obsessed with. He rolled away, staring at the dark wall, heart pounding like it did before raids overseas. The next morning, he woke up early and made coffee, stepping into the backyard to breathe. He looked at the sky, crisp and pale blue, and thought, I'm still here, but I don't know if she is, or if she ever came back at all. And yet, he convinced himself not to jump to conclusions, because loyalty, to him, meant waiting, even if he felt like a stranger, even if the silence was louder than the gunfire he once knew, even if every room in his house now whispered secrets. Still, he told himself, maybe it's just stress. Maybe it'll pass. Maybe. Chapter 3. Slipping Mask. Marcus had always believed that trust wasn't something you measured. It was something you gave. All in, no questions. It was the kind of loyalty he learned early in life, the kind that carried him through sandstorms, firefights, and sleepless nights overseas. But now, that trust had begun to rot underfoot. It started small. One night, around 11:30, he came downstairs for a glass of water. The house was mostly dark except for a sliver of light beneath the study door. Then he heard her laugh. Not the usual chuckle she gave the kids, not the sarcastic smirk she threw at him when she was annoyed. No, this one was soft, warm, flirty, the kind of laugh he hadn't heard from her in over a year. He froze near the bottom step. Her voice drifted through the door. No, stop it, she whispered, giggling again. You're so stupid. Pause. Thursday's perfect, but only if you behave this time. Marcus clenched his fist around the stair rail, blood rushing to his ears. There was silence for a moment, then the unmistakable click of a call ending. He knocked on the door like nothing was wrong. Dana opened it, wide-eyed, phone behind her back. Hey, she said quickly, voice unnaturally bright. What are you doing up? I could ask you the same, he replied evenly. Just checking emails. She waved a hand vaguely toward the computer. The monitor was off. Who were you talking to? No one, she said too fast. Just Rachel. Marcus glanced behind her. The phone was face down on the desk, screen still glowing. He gave her a long look, then nodded. Okay, night. She kissed his cheek. It was cold. Perfume lingered on her wrist. The lies began stacking like cards, wobbly, flimsy, easy to knock down. But Marcus didn't push. Not yet. He just started paying attention. Thursday evening, as promised, Dana stepped out for yoga. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, helping Max with a math worksheet. What's 10 times 12? He asked. Max frowned. 120? Marcus smiled. You got it. Sophie walked in, wearing earbuds, and opened the fridge. Is Mom going out again? Yeah, Marcus said without looking up. Yoga. Sophie scoffed. Yoga? In heels and fake lashes. He turned to her. What? She just left here looking like she's going clubbing, Sophie said, grabbing a soda. Told me to tell you not to wait up. Marcus stood slowly. Did she say where she was going? Sophie shrugged. I don't know. She talks more to that guy Nathan lately anyway. Nathan? Marcus asked, too calm. Yeah, some guy who was over here last week while you were out at the VA thing. Said he was her co-worker. Marcus nodded slowly, pulse picking up. Max looked up, confused. Is Nathan Mommy's friend? Marcus forced a smile. Yeah, buddy. I guess so. That night, Marcus waited until 9:45, then slid into his truck, parked down the street from Dana's usual yoga studio. He turned off the engine, lights off, windows cracked just enough to hear the night. He waited, and waited. She never showed. The next day, when she left her phone on the kitchen counter while showering, he stared at it like it was a bomb with a ticking timer. He didn't unlock it. Didn't need to. The notification bar told him enough. 3 new texts from Nate. Last night was amazing. Still wearing that dress in my head. Let's skip the bullshit next time and just get a room. Marcus felt everything stop, like his heart forgot how to beat. He put the phone down just as she stepped out of the hallway. You see my charger? She asked, towel around her. Nope, Marcus said without turning around. She took the phone and left. That night, Marcus confronted her after dinner. The kids were upstairs. The house was too quiet, too still. He stood in the kitchen while she scrolled on her phone, sitting cross-legged on the couch. "We need to talk." She didn't look up. "About what?" "You lied to me." She finally glanced at him. "What now?" "You weren't at yoga, and you haven't been for a while." Dana blinked slowly, then exhaled like she was bored. And now you're keeping tabs on me?" "I'm asking for honesty." "Oh, that's rich." She stood, voice rising. "You never hear, Marcus. You leave for months, then waltz back in and act like you get to run this house." "I was serving this country," he said, jaw clenched. "Our family." "No, you were chasing medals and adrenaline while I raised these kids alone." Her voice cracked with venom. "Do you have any idea what that does to a person? What feels like to sleep alone, eat alone, cry alone?" Marcus stared at her, stunned. "So your answer to that was what, Nathan?" She didn't deny it. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Don't be dramatic. It's not like I planned for this to happen. Things just changed." "Changed," he echoed. "You mean you did?" Her face twisted. "I deserve to feel wanted again, Marcus. Not just tolerated when you're not deployed." He stepped closer. "And our marriage? The vows we made?" She crossed her arms. "Vows don't pay bills. Vows don't hug you when you wake up alone for the 100th night in a row. You left me, emotionally, long before I ever looked at anyone else. So, it has gotten physical," he said quietly. She didn't answer, but the silence said everything. He spent the next few nights pretending to sleep while his mind ran war games, piecing timelines, scrubbing through memories. Everything she said twisted itself backward now, reframed through deception. He requested a copy of their shared phone bill through the carrier's site. Spent hours charting out the texts, the calls, the hours she'd been at yoga or meeting a friend. Nate's number popped up daily. Morning, noon, late nights. Once even at 3 a.m. 2 days later, Dana came home wearing a tight black dress, red lipstick still fresh. She smelled like cheap beer and someone else's cologne. Marcus sat in the kitchen, finishing off the last of a beer. "You look like hell," she commented, kicking off her heels. "Long day," he replied flatly. She sauntered past him toward the hallway, her mood smug, posture dripping with confidence. "Nathan treating you better than I ever did?" he asked, tone hollow. She froze, then slowly turned. "Maybe he just appreciates me," she said coolly. "Something you forgot how to do a long time ago." She left him standing there, jaw tight, fists clenched, surrounded by the silence of a crumbling life. The lies piled up. The excuses grew thinner. Her mask? It was slipping, and Marcus had stopped pretending. But he wasn't ready to explode. Not yet. Not until he had proof. Not until the mask fell completely. Chapter 4. The affair confirmed. The evening was heavy with summer humidity, air thick enough to chew. Marcus sat in his truck 3 blocks down from their house, eyes steady on the road, hands cold on the steering wheel despite the July heat. Dana had said she was going to meet a friend for dinner. Rachel again, she'd added casually, tugging on that same tight black dress she'd worn before. She avoided his eyes when she kissed Max and Sophie goodbye. Marcus didn't argue. He simply waited 15 minutes after she left, then slipped out the door, his movements silent and deliberate. The GPS tracker he'd hidden beneath her rear bumper a week ago had pinged a location, south end of town, near the old motel strip. "Let's see what Rachel's wearing tonight," Marcus muttered under his breath, starting the ignition. He didn't feel angry. Not in the way most men might expect to be. Not like fire. No, this was ice. Heavy. Suffocating. His whole world was on mute, and his breath moved like it had weight. As he pulled into the gravel lot near the Greenwood Motel, Marcus turned off his headlights and let the truck roll into shadow. The motel was exactly what you'd expect. Run down, neon flickering rooms with rusted doors and blinds that never closed quite right. And then he saw her. Dana stepped out of her car, just as another vehicle, a slick black Mustang, pulled in beside her. The man who climbed out was lean, muscled, mid-30s. A fitted tee clung to his gym-toned frame. His hair was perfectly styled, smug smile already in place before he even touched her. Marcus didn't recognize him in person, but he knew from the way Dana practically floated toward him, that this had to be Nathan. She didn't even look over her shoulder. Didn't care if anyone saw. Marcus reached for his phone and snapped photo after photo. There she was, pressing her body against Nathan, laughing into his neck. His hand slid down her waist, familiar, practiced. She let him kiss her deep and slow, right there in the open. Then they walked together into room 9, the door clicking shut behind them. Marcus sat in the darkness, frozen. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't emotional drift. This was betrayal. Deliberate. Loud. Physical. His throat was dry. He tried to swallow, but it caught halfway. Rage tried to rise his chest, tried hard, but something in him shoved it back down. He didn't move for 20 minutes. Not until he saw the curtains in the motel room twitch. Then, and only then, did he pull out his phone and send the pictures to his secured cloud drive. He gave them names and tags, with timestamps. He backed up everything twice. By the time he returned home, the kids were already asleep. Sophie had left her earbuds tangled on the kitchen table. Max's light was still on. He'd fallen asleep reading his comic books. Marcus watched him for a long moment, standing quietly in the doorway. He wasn't going to blow up. He wasn't going to be that guy, the screaming, broken man who let emotions ruin his shot at protecting the only thing that still mattered. The kids. They didn't deserve a war zone. They didn't need to see their father shattered. He walked down the hall, pulled out his laptop, and began creating folders. Evidence, Dana, custody phone, bill records, photos, Greenwood Motel, Nathan he called in a favor from an old army buddy, now working in private investigation. Discreet, he said over the phone. I want this clean, legal. I don't want any of it blowing back on me in court. Understood, his friend replied. We'll log everything. You'll have more than enough by the time this hits. Marcus hung up and leaned back in his chair. The weight of the truth sat heavy in his chest, but there was something else now. Something steely. Resolve. Dana returned after midnight. She didn't see Marcus sitting on the back porch in the dark. She went straight to the laundry room, stripped off her dress, and dumped it in the washer. Her heels clacked lightly across the tile as she padded barefoot toward their bedroom. He didn't speak as she walked by. Didn't need to. She didn't say a word. The next morning, Marcus got up early and made breakfast. Max ran downstairs first, arms wide. Dad, you made bacon. He caught his son mid-jump and held him tight for a second longer than usual. Sure did, buddy. Sophie walked in behind him, still in pajamas, eyes still puffy from sleep. Where's Mom? Sleeping in. Marcus said calmly, placing eggs on plates. She had a long night. He heard Sophie huff, but she didn't comment. Instead, she just sat and picked at her food. Halfway through breakfast, Dana appeared, hair tied up, face clean, wearing a neutral expression. Morning, she said casually. Marcus nodded. Morning. She sipped her coffee in silence. Everyone did. Marcus watched her carefully. She looked different this morning, less smug, more careful. Maybe she'd seen something in his eyes last night. Maybe she knew something had shifted, but she wouldn't guess how much. Later that day, Marcus opened a secure line and called a lawyer. I want to know my rights, he said. I want to protect my kids. And I want to make damn sure I'm not taken for a fool. You've got options, the attorney replied, especially if you've got proof. The courts take adultery seriously in custody battles, more than people think. About everything, Marcus said flatly. Good. Keep your cool. Document everything. Don't let emotion sabotage the setup. The law works better when you're the calm one. Marcus smirked bitterly. That won't be a problem. That night, Marcus didn't sleep. He watched Dana as she texted on the couch with a faint smile tugging her lips. He could practically see Nathan's words on the screen, dripping with cocky arrogance. She thought she had the upper hand. She thought she'd played him, quiet soldier boy, too dumb or too noble to catch on. But what she didn't know was that the game was changing. Marcus had been at war before. He knew how to strategize. He knew how to be patient. He knew how to win. He walked to the hallway mirror later that night, looking at himself, really looking. This wasn't the same man who came home hoping to rebuild. This was someone new, cold, focused, prepared, because now it wasn't about saving the marriage. It was about saving his dignity, his kids, his future. And Dana? She didn't realize yet, but she was standing in the blast zone. The betrayal ate at him, but he remained stoic, focused, cold, ready. A quiet storm was coming, and she wouldn't hear it until it was too late. Chapter 5. The Divorce Papers. The morning sun broke through the blinds, but Marcus felt no warmth. He just finished his second cup of black coffee when a knock came at the door. It wasn't frantic or friendly. It was cold, calculated like a gavel already halfway down. When he opened the door, a courier in a bland suit handed him an envelope. "Are you Marcus Granger?" "I am. You've been served." The envelope hit his palm like a brick. Thick, heavy. The print on the front, "Law Offices of Trenton and Gray," stared back like a death notice. Marcus closed the door behind him and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the sealed fate. The walls of the house were silent, the kids at school, the air still. With slow, steady fingers, he opened it. Petition for divorce plaintiff. Dana Granger defendant. Marcus Granger, as he read. His stomach dropped further with every line. Plaintiff seeks full physical and legal custody of the minor children. Defendant's career and prolonged absences constitute abandonment and emotional neglect. Plaintiff requests exclusive rights to the marital home. Plaintiff requests monthly spousal support due to defendant's substantially higher income. She was taking everything. Everything. The woman he'd carried through deployments in his mind like a beacon, his reason for staying alive through mortar fire and blood-soaked sand, was now calling him an absentee father and asking to take his children. His hands trembled as he turned the last page. A court date. 3 weeks from now. Marcus leaned back and exhaled through his nose. No reaction. No yelling. Just the sound of his fingers drumming softly against the table. That night, Dana returned home earlier than usual. She tossed her keys on the counter, her heels clicking across the hardwood as she poured herself a glass of wine, like it was any other Thursday. Marcus didn't look up. "I assume you got the papers," she said finally, not looking at him. "I did." Her voice dripped with smug satisfaction. "Good. I think it's best we don't drag this out." He finally raised his eyes. "You're really asking for the kids, the house, and support?" She smirked, sipping her wine. "Nathan says it's the smart play. You've been gone half their lives. I was the one here. The judge will see that." Marcus said nothing, but inside, he flinched at the name. "Nathan." She dropped it casually now like a fact. "You've really got some nerve," he said quietly. She cocked her head. "Don't get all wounded soldier on me, Marcus. You checked out a long time ago. I was serving our country, and I was serving our family." She shot back. "Alone. Nathan was here. He showed up. You don't get to act like the victim now." Marcus stared at her, calm on the outside, his pulse steady, deliberate. But inside, he was already at war. The day of the first hearing came with gray skies and light rain. Marcus stood outside the courthouse in full civilian dress. His lawyer, Mr. Hale, a seasoned man with salt and pepper hair and a quiet sharpness, stood beside him. "She's going in khaki," Hale said, glancing at his tablet. "They filed their opening brief this morning. They're going for the throat." Marcus nodded. "Let them." Inside the courtroom, Dana sat across from him in a tailored white dress, her hair freshly done, makeup perfect. Next to her sat a young, smug man in an expensive suit, her lawyer, Trenton himself. Dana didn't look nervous. She looked victorious. When the judge entered, everyone stood. Trenton began quickly, with practiced confidence. "Your Honor, my client has endured years of emotional abandonment while raising 2 children essentially on her own. Mr. Granger's commendable military record is not in question. However, his duties overseas cannot substitute active parenting. The children require stability, and that's something Ms. Granger has consistently provided." The judge scribbled notes. Marcus sat quietly, jaw tight. Then Dana took the stand. Trenton guided her with gentle, leading questions. "Would you say Marcus was around for most of the children's developmental years?" She scoffed. "Barely. He was always gone. Birthdays, school plays, even Max's broken arm. Nathan drove us to the hospital." "And how did that affect the children?" "They started seeing Nathan as more of a father figure." Marcus's lawyer stood. "Objection. Opinion." Sustained, the judge said, though he barely looked up. Trenton leaned closer, his voice slick. "Would you say you feel emotionally neglected in your marriage?" Dana shrugged with a pitiful expression. It was like being married to a ghost, and not a very good one. Chuckles rippled through her side of the courtroom. Then came the moment Marcus never thought he'd hear. Not in court, not in front of strangers. Dana tilted her head and said, "At least Nathan was here. He's more of a man than Marcus ever was." There was a silence so sharp it could have drawn blood. Hale gently touched Marcus's forearm, whispering, "Let it go." Marcus didn't flinch, didn't blink. His expression stayed frozen, a mask carved from granite. But inside, something shifted. He wasn't humiliated. He was calculating. Every lie, every insult, every jab, he logged them like coordinates, like weak points in enemy armor. Because this wasn't the end. This was reconnaissance. As they left the courtroom, Dana caught up with him in the hallway. She smiled like she was handing him his walking papers. "I told you this would go smoothly if you didn't fight it," she said. "Just sign the papers. Nathan and I are already looking at houses. Bigger ones." Marcus turned and looked her dead in the eyes. "You picked the wrong ghost to haunt." Her smile faltered just for a second, but she recovered. "Keep telling yourself that." He didn't speak again. He didn't need to. That night, Marcus pulled the storage container from beneath his bed and laid the contents out across the desk. Photos, phone logs, motel receipts, a copy of Nathan's juvenile criminal record he'd dug up through a PI. Financial transfers Dana thought he wouldn't see. He cataloged every piece, one by one, like ammo, locked and loaded. Marcus remained silent, but inside, he was loading ammo for war. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was precision, preparation, a reckoning waiting to detonate. Chapter 6. Revelation in Court. The courthouse buzzed with the low hum of voices and the shuffle of footsteps on tile. But to Marcus, the world had gone quiet. He walked through the wide, double doors like a soldier entering hostile territory, composed, unreadable, his jaw set with a quiet power. Dana strutted in ahead of him, her white blouse sharp, her heels loud. Nathan walked beside her in a designer jacket, his smirk nearly wide enough to tear his face in half. Dana leaned in and whispered something that made him chuckle. It looked like they were walking into an awards show, not a courtroom. Marcus watched from a distance, noting how Dana's head turned to make sure he saw her holding Nathan's hand. He gave her nothing, just a nod of acknowledgement, as if she were a stranger who dropped her grocery receipt. "Everything's ready," Mr. Hale said beside him, voice low and calm. "Once the judge gives us the floor, you sure about this?" Marcus didn't blink. "It's time." They entered the courtroom. The judge, an older man with graying hair and steel in his stare, took the bench. This court is now in session. Trenton, Dana's slick-haired lawyer, stood like he was preparing for an easy win. "Your Honor, as previously submitted, my client, Mrs. Dana Granger, is seeking full custody of the children, the family home, and appropriate spousal support. Mr. Granger has not presented any compelling opposition thus far." He glanced back at Marcus with a smug half-smile. Dana mirrored it. Nathan leaned back in the pew with his arms folded, like he already had the house key in his pocket. The judge nodded. "Mr. Granger, do you have anything to add before we proceed to ruling?" Marcus stood slowly, calm, controlled. His footsteps echoed lightly as he approached the bench. "Yes, Your Honor. One item." He reached into his folder and pulled out a single document, 8 pages stapled crisp. He placed it gently in front of the judge. "This is my final statement," he said. "You'll want to read it in full." The courtroom held its breath. Even Trenton paused mid-flick of his pen. The judge adjusted his glasses and began to read. 30 seconds in, his brows furrowed. 1 minute later, his hand reached for the intercom on the desk. "Bailiff," he said, voice sharp, commanding. "Secure the doors." There was a beat of stunned silence. Then, "No one leaves this courtroom. I repeat, close the doors now." Dana blinked. What the hell is this? 2 military police officers in full uniform entered through the side doors, stepping quickly toward the bench. Dana's eyes darted between them. Then to Marcus, confusion beginning to melt into panic. Trenton stood. "Your Honor, what's going on here?" The judge's voice was colder now, harder. "What's going on, Mr. Trenton, is that your client's associate has been involved in a federal-level scheme to access and traffic restricted military financial data. He held up the paper. This document includes screenshots, access logs, and IP traces, all linking Mr. Nathan Kellerman to multiple unauthorized breaches conducted from Mr. Granger's private home network while he was deployed. This is felony-level cybercrime, and likely a violation of the Espionage Act. Nathan's smirk evaporated. He stood too quickly, knocking his chair backward. Wait, what? That's bullsh. Stay where you are, one of the MPs barked, already moving toward him. Dana's chair scraped loudly. Marcus, what is this? What are you talking about? He turned to her, expression still flat, unreadable. You let him into my house. My system. My military clearance router. You let a low-level gym trainer play James Bond on my encrypted files. I didn't know, she screeched, rising to her feet. Nathan, what the hell is going on? I didn't do anything. Nathan snapped. This is a setup. The MPs weren't listening. One of them already had his hand on Nathan's arm. Nathan twisted, furious, but a second later he was face first on the desk, wrists bound behind his back. Federal arrest warrant executed, the MP said, lifting Nathan to his feet. Nathan Kellerman, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit military-grade financial fraud, unauthorized access to classified data, and distribution of protected information. Nathan fought against their grip. You think I'm scared of you, soldier boy? This isn't over, you hear me? This is... The courtroom erupted into chaos. Papers flew as Trenton dropped his binder. Dana looked like she'd been struck by lightning, frozen in place, mouth hanging open. You set this up. You planned this, she hissed. Marcus stepped toward her slowly. No, you set this up. When you gave him the Wi-Fi password. When you let him into my office. When you thought I'd roll over and die quietly while you spat on everything I built. I didn't know, she screamed, almost childlike now. He told me it was just security software. He said it was nothing. But it was something, Marcus said flatly. And you handed it to him, wrapped in my children's pictures. The judge slammed the gavel. Order. Court is adjourned until further notice. The defendant will remain until further interviews can be conducted. This is now a federal matter. Trenton scrambled to collect his things, but even he looked like he'd seen a ghost. MPs swarmed toward the back hallway, one of them motioning to Marcus. Captain Granger, we'll debrief with you shortly. Marcus nodded and returned to his seat, unshaken. Hale sat beside him, whistling under his breath. Well, he said quietly, that might be the most satisfying motion I've ever seen delivered. Behind them, Dana sat slumped, head in her hands. Her white blouse now felt like a mockery. Her makeup smeared from tears or panic or both. She didn't even look up. She just whispered the same thing over and over. I didn't know. I didn't know. But Marcus wasn't listening anymore. Dana's world shatters. Chapter 7. The Fallout. The silence after the storm was deafening. The courtroom had emptied in a flurry of uniforms, gasps, and the snapping of handcuffs. Dana's cries had echoed long after the doors shut behind Nathan. Her lawyer avoided eye contact, mumbling something about a conflict of interest before disappearing down the hall. Marcus hadn't said a word since leaving the courtroom. The world outside was gray and still. Clouds hung heavy over the parking lot as he walked to his truck, Hale beside him, but wisely quiet. Marcus's boots crunched over loose gravel. Behind him, Dana called out, weakly at first. Marcus, wait. He didn't stop walking. Please, just talk to me. You have to believe me. I didn't know what he was doing. He turned his head slightly, just enough to see her standing on the courthouse steps. Her blouse was wrinkled now, mascara trailing down her cheeks, her voice raw from yelling. She looked nothing like the confident, smug woman who had walked in with Nathan on her arm just hours ago. Marcus didn't say a word. He just opened the truck door and stepped inside. The house felt emptier when he returned, not because it lacked life, but because it had finally been purged of the lies. Dana had left in a hurry, her side of the closet bare. A few forgotten earrings sat on the dresser like artifacts from a dead relationship. The scent of her perfume still clung to the pillowcases. Marcus didn't touch any of it. Instead, He called his real estate agent the next morning. "Yeah," he said, standing in the living room where his son had once taken his first steps. "Sell it. I'll take whatever's fair. I'm done with this place." The agent hesitated. "Are you sure? It's a great neighborhood, good schools, I'm sure," Marcus said. "It's just a building now." The kids were quiet at first, unsure of how to handle the sudden shift. Marcus didn't tell them everything, just enough to explain that Mom wouldn't be around for a while. They stayed with him full-time now. The judge didn't even flinch during the hearing. Marcus cooked dinner every night. He helped with homework, went to soccer games, and read bedtime stories, even when he was bone-tired. He poured himself into being present. The one thing he'd always feared he wasn't, he now became with unwavering resolve. Late at night, when the kids were asleep, his phone would buzz. "Dana, I'm sorry. I was stupid. Please, can we talk?" Buzz. "Dana, they froze my accounts. I didn't even know about the charges. He tricked me. You know I'm not like that." Buzz. "Dana. Marcus, you're breaking my heart. Please. I made a mistake. Just talk to me." He never responded. He let her words die in silence, like she had let their vows die in betrayal. The house sold faster than expected. Clean, spacious, with motivated sellers. Marcus packed everything himself, loading boxes methodically, one room at a time. When he came across the photo album, wedding pictures, baby milestones, beach trips, he paused only for a second before sealing away. Some memories didn't need to be displayed anymore. He bought a smaller home just outside town. Modest, peaceful, a yard big enough for the kids to play. No ghosts in the walls. No perfume on the pillowcases. 3 months later, he opened his own business. A gym and training center for veterans. Iron Resolve became a quiet success. Nothing flashy. No gimmicks. Just discipline, honesty, and community. Fellow veterans found belonging there. Civilians came for the workouts, but stayed for the stories, the camaraderie. Marcus trained every client like he was still on the field, encouraging, relentless, focused. There were still nights when the pain crept in, when memories replayed in quiet flickers. Dana's laughter from another room. The way she used to fall asleep on his chest. The way she screamed his name in court as Nathan was dragged out. But the difference now? He didn't drown in it. It was on a cold Saturday afternoon that Dana appeared again. Marcus had just finished raking leaves with his daughter. She was giggling, trying to jump into the pile before he could finish. His son was in the garage, helping with tools, proud of his little hammer. That's when he heard tires crunch the gravel. He turned. Dana stepped out of a silver sedan, hair tied back in a messy bun, wearing the kind of hoodie you put on when you've run out of pride. Her eyes were red, hands trembling. "Marcus," she whispered. He didn't answer. She walked closer, stopping just past the mailbox. "I know I don't deserve anything. I know I ruined everything. I miss them. I miss you. I wake up, and God, I see your face in everything." He looked down at his daughter, who had stopped playing. She clung to his leg now, sensing the tension. "Please," Dana begged. "I was stupid. I was weak. But you know me. You know I didn't mean for it to get so far. I thought I thought he cared, and by the time I realized it was a lie, it was too late." "You thought wrong," Marcus said, finally. Her breath caught. "Marcus, I've lost everything. You, the kids, my job, my name, my goddamn future. You don't have to forgive me. Just don't hate me." Marcus knelt and picked up his daughter, holding her close. "I don't hate you, Dana," he said quietly. "But I don't pity you either." She took a shaky step forward. Can I talk to them? Just for a minute." He met her eyes. There was no rage there, no revenge, just silence. "No," she broke then, shoulders crumbling, tears falling freely. "Please, Marcus, don't do this." But he turned and walked away, his little girl clutching his neck. He didn't look back. Dana is left disgraced, humiliated, and legally cornered. Her lover gone. Her custody claim destroyed. Marcus walks out in silence. The kids stay with him. He sells the house, starts a new life. Dana texts him begging for forgiveness. He doesn't reply. Chapter 8. The Resolution. The house was quiet on Sunday mornings. Light spilled in through the big bay windows of Marcus's living room, warming the hardwood floors and catching on the framed photos that lined the mantel, his his 2 kids, older now, grinning in graduation caps, and his wife, Isabella, her eyes kind and steady. The chaos of the past was a shadow behind him now, but its shape never completely disappeared. Marcus stood at the kitchen island, stirring coffee. The aroma grounded him. Isabella padded in barefoot, wearing one of his old army t-shirts and smiling that warm smile that said everything without needing a word. "Kids are still asleep?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He nodded, closing his eyes at the comfort of her touch. "Yeah, it's one of the few weekends nobody's got plans or practice or drama." She chuckled softly, kissed his shoulder. "Peaceful's good. Peaceful." The word sat in him like a benediction. After everything, he'd learned to treasure that simple state of being. Outside, the town buzzed with life. The farmer's market had set up in the square. He and Isabella had made a tradition of going, nothing special, just coffee, music, and wandering. It was the kind of mundane beauty he used to take for granted. Now, he savored every second. They headed out after breakfast. His truck still bore the decal. Veteran-owned and operated Patriot Restoration Services. The business was his quiet rebuild after the wreckage. What started with 1 truck and a toolbox turned into 5 employees, contracts with real estate groups, and a wait list. Fixing things came naturally. It was healing in a way paperwork and therapy never touched. As they parked and stepped into the square, the smell of kettle corn and roasted coffee met them. A street guitarist played softly under a tree, and laughter rang out from a group of kids chasing each other by the fountain. Then he saw her, Dana. She stood behind a vendor table, wearing a red apron with a logo for some local natural soap company. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her face thinner than he remembered, eyes tired. She smiled politely at a customer and passed him a paper bag. The moment she saw him, her face drained. Their eyes met, only for a breath, but it was enough. She looked away, busying herself with fake inventory shuffling. He didn't flinch. Isabella didn't say a word. She didn't need to. She simply slid her hand into his, and they kept walking. Past the stalls, past the ghosts, past the ruins of the old life. Later that night, after the kids were in bed and Isabella was dozing on the couch beside him, Marcus opened the old chest in his study. Inside were files, old photos, and a sealed envelope labeled custody hearing. Do not open. He stared at it for a long time before gently closing the chest. He thought back to the day in court, the stunned silence when the judge ordered the room sealed, the chaos as military police took Nathan away in cuffs, Dana's mouth agape, her lawyer's hands trembling, the stunned glares, the downfall, the power of one quiet truth revealed at the right moment. He hadn't needed to scream. He hadn't needed revenge shouted from rooftops. He let facts speak. Let justice roar in measured tones. The kid stayed with him. The house sold within a year. Dana had tried, of course, texts late at night, long emails about what we were, how she'd made a mistake. He never replied. She came once, stood outside the old house, crying on the front porch. He opened the door, let the kids pack their things in the car, then turned his back to her tears and walked away without a word. There were nights after that, rough ones, where he'd lie awake questioning if he'd failed as a husband, as a father, if 3 deployments had been too many, if the enemy hadn't taken him down out there, but she'd managed it at home. But then came Isabella, gentle, steady, patient. She didn't fix him. She didn't need to. She just made space for him to put himself back together. The kids flourished. They smiled again, laughed without hesitation. His son joined ROTC. His daughter got into her dream college on a full ride. They didn't ask about their mother often, but when they did, Marcus never poisoned the well. He gave them space to form their own truths. Dana? She was a name mentioned occasionally in passing. Rumors that she dated here and there. Lived in a small apartment near downtown. Worked retail, sometimes tried to sell homemade candles online. Always alone. He didn't hate her. He thought he would for a long time. But hate had too much gravity. It kept you orbiting what should be left behind. Now, on quiet nights, Marcus sat on the porch, watched the stars, and just breathed. The war overseas had given him medals. The war at home had given him wisdom. He learned that strength wasn't measured in fists or fury, but in silence, discipline, and the grace not to destroy what destroyed you. That night, as he put away the last of the dishes and locked the front door, Marcus turned off the lights and paused at the hallway. Isabella was waiting in bed, reading. The house was still. He touched the wall as he passed, just for a second, grounding himself, reminding himself, this is mine, this peace, this quiet, this life rebuilt. He slipped into bed beside his wife, kissed her on the forehead, and pulled the blanket over them both. The past was done. The future was his. Some wars are fought in silence, and the quiet ones leave the deepest scars.